How are you? Today we want to talk about a very simple intervention, something I like to use with my clients that helps identify pain centers in therapy. And so I wanted to share this with you guys. I love this intervention. It's called the Circle of Pain. And I usually do this with all my clients because life is full of trauma. We can't seek to constantly and always be safe from trauma, but we can choose whether we will suffer or not. And so it's very easy to do. If you have a piece of paper, I want you to draw out 3 circles, similar to a target. For all my shopping moms out there, we all know how to draw a target symbol. So you're going to start with the circle of pain on the outside layer, because we have many facets to our personality and to ourselves, but then also we put up layers to help as defense mechanisms in order to protect us. So the outside layer are our symptoms. The symptom is why you usually seek to get help. You go to the doctor because of symptoms, fever, sniffling, symptoms of colds, symptoms of viruses, symptoms of bacteria in the body, or different ailments. In therapy, usually people come in because they're struggling with a symptom. They're struggling with substance abuse, toxic relationships, poor boundaries. They're suffering from maybe maladaptive habits. And we usually write those out here. So we'll write a few, maybe depression, relationship struggles, anxiety might be one, maybe perhaps addiction. A lot of times when people come into the office, they immediately assume that this is their biggest problem. Their depression is their biggest problem, or their imbalanced relationships. But the truth of it is that's only the tip of the iceberg. Anger is another symptom that people often struggle with. Right below the symptom is a fear. People respond to situations out of fear, and that leads to putting up destructive measures that fall under our symptoms. So if you think about struggling with depression, there's usually a core fear that you're using to avoid whatever it is that's leading to the depression. Fears that are often associated with depression might be fear of pain, fear of loss, fear of rejection. There may be others, but those are just a few examples. If you have an imbalance in relationships, or low personal boundaries, or maybe your relationship is toxic or abusive, some of the fears that can be associated with relationships could be fear of being alone, fear of being unwanted. People in codependent relationships often find that they are afraid that they are not enough. So they tend to produce more, give more in the relationship, sort of over-nurture the other person, and develop these codependent patterns because they want to validate their existence in that relationship. Fear with anxiety. Anxiety as a diagnosis is based in fear, and often the fear can be associated with losing control. It can also be a lack of validation. might be, there might be other fears that you find with your anxiety. With addiction, one of the greatest fears that I have found with people in addiction is fear of feeling their emotions. Dealing with trauma. Or accepting mental health issues or limitations. So fear of, their own brain, their own perceptions of the world. People in addiction a lot of times can feel as if they're the root cause of the pain that they fear, and they can have a sense of self-loathing or low self-worth, and that again is also a fear. So as you can see, as we go into each layer, it becomes a little bit overwhelming. If you're finding, as you're filling in your layers, that you're kind of digging up some deep emotions, that's what this intervention's supposed to do. A lot of times when we just focus on our symptoms, it becomes more of a distraction from the real issues, and we can feel almost as if, well, we can handle the symptom. We can, have a sense of control over our depression, or we can have a sense of control over our anxiety. But the truth is, if we dug a little deeper, it becomes overwhelming almost. One layer in is a need. A need. This need has gone unmet in your life. Young children, as they grow and they develop, they have certain core needs that all human beings have and carry with them. And if, especially during their young life, these needs go unmet, it can create lasting ripple effects in the way they manage their life and their surroundings and their personality and their lifestyle forever, unless they become aware of it and they learn how to get their needs met. If you have a small child, you probably understand that small children go to great lengths to get their needs met. They might throw temper tantrums, they might cry a lot, they might respond to negative behavior just to get needs met, and that can be frustrating. But if you could take a step back and see what the need is, every child, every person has basic needs. So with you also have basic needs, and I would venture to say there have been needs in your life that have gone unmet or unnurtured. So let's take depression and the fear of pain, loss, or rejection. The need that is missing and unmet in your life might be acceptance, love, belonging, the fear in your relationships of being alone or unwanted or not enough for your family or those people you care about. The need, again, might also be love or belonging, but it might also be self-love, self-worth, or self-acceptance. It also might, with anxiety, the need for control, the fear that things will become out of control, the fear that you will not be enough or receive the validation you need. The need that might be unmet might be to be understood or heard or validated. With addiction, again, any of these needs might also belong to addiction. You might have the need for safety. Many addicts grow up in homes that where trauma was present, whether that was emotional trauma or sexual trauma or physical trauma. Maybe if the symptom was a divorce, then the fear might be that this was your fault. That's another common fear, is that it was my fault. My life, the chaos that has happened in my life is my fault. And so the need there would be forgiveness. To forgive yourself or others. And that can be very difficult. It can be very difficult to look at our needs and take an honest assessment of what's really going on under the surface. Okay, so the center of this circle is you. At the center of all of this is you. And usually there is a pain center associated with you and your early recollections, your early life, and usually that pain center begins with some kind of trauma, some kind of loss. So I'd like to tell clients to think back to some of their earliest memories where they felt that their needs were unmet. Their temper tantrums were misunderstood. Their behaviors were judged and rejected versus accepted and loved. So think back to some of the early memories you might have and begin looking at some of the ripple effects in your life that have perpetuated the trauma and the fear and the loss. Okay? As you look back, you will notice that the unmet needs, the desires you have for love, acceptance, belonging, forgiveness, being understood, being heard, appreciated, or validated, that those desires started very early in your life and may have played out in many different relationships or situations as you have grown. The way to heal from this is to go back to that small inner self, that hurting self, and find productive, proactive ways to meet your own needs. To begin to tell yourself and the small hurting person inside of you that it's okay. You will begin meeting your needs and taking care of yourself. You will begin to take the need for belonging, and you will find ways to belong to yourself. You will find ways to forgive yourself, and you will find ways to love yourself. This is very hard. Takes a long time and a lot of work. Some fears, some symptoms aren't so challenging, but then a lot of our symptoms can be very overwhelming. This is where reaching out for help can always be a good thing to do. So if you're finding yourself overwhelmed with symptoms in your life, negative behaviors, toxic relationships, distractions that keep you avoiding the fears you have and keep you from meeting your needs that are in your life and fulfilling your own desires, your own healthy ambitions. This is where getting help would be very powerful for you. If you feel that you're not quite there and you don't quite need to reach out for maybe professional help, take time every day to inventory your fears and your pain. Do a pain assessment, an emotional suffering assessment, and see where the lack is. Where is the need that needs to be met? Start there and find small ways through self-care, through positive relationships, through faith in a higher power, to have those needs met or reinforced, and build there. If you begin here, the small person inside of you will begin to be nourished and grow. When you see yourself responding in fear, or when you see yourself actively engaging in a symptom, that's a good time to pause and to look inward at what needs you need to focus on. I hope you found this video helpful. For more information, please subscribe to my YouTube channel. The subscription button is below. I will put up a graphic for you to print off in the comment section. I hope you enjoyed this. Please comment below if you have any questions or if you would like to find information about some supports near you.